Welcome into something that we hope is going to be really, really cool. Thursday night football with the Whale Capper. I'm Dan Coop from Sport Trade, joined by the man, the legend. There's no myth about this guy. He is Drew Dinsick, the Whale Capper. Drew, how the hell are you, my friend? Good to see you.
I could not be better. I feel like the last time we did some content, it was pretty magical with Ons Jabor coming back on this Arena Sabalenka in the semifinals of Wimbledon. That was quite fun. And at the time, it was like, you know what? I like what you guys are doing. I like the I like the sport trade exchange vibe when we get to NFL. When we have some Thursday night football in particular, I feel like I tread lightly pre-flop when it comes to Thursday night football because it's a little chaotic.
Yeah.
And you know what chaos brings? It brings opportunity if you're live trading, which is why I think this is kind of ideal synergy.
Took the words right out of my mouth. We were talking right before we went live about just airplane travel and whatnot. I will tell you, I lived in Green Bay, Wisconsin for about 4 years covering the Green Bay Packers. And the shortest flight I always took, the shortest flight I've ever taken in my life repeatedly, is the flight from Green Bay to Chicago. It's 18 minutes, if you can believe that. So by the time you're up in the air, don't bother asking for water or anything because the flight attendants are going to just look at you sideways. By the time we get up to altitude, we're already coming back down to O'Hare. That's the worst flight ever. It takes like 3 hours to get to the airport, get checked in, get on the flight, and then fly to wherever you actually have to go. So amazing stuff from Green Bay, Wisconsin.
My only Green Bay close call, and like it's bucket list to go to
Close
a game.
call.
Yeah. Well,
I almost had to go to Wisconsin.
I almost had to go to. No, this was a positive. This was, I say close call. It's not meant to be a negative. This is not. I'm not shading Green Bay here, but I had opportunity to. Do you remember exactly 2 years ago? The Ryder Cup was in Wisconsin.
Yes. Aaron Hills, of course.
Yeah. And it also that same weekend, Monday Night Football was Lions at Packers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when, Aaron Rodgers was sort of at the peak of his powers, MVP coming off an MVP season. They had a terrible first, week one. And then week two, they just throttled the Dan Campbell Lions. And I had tickets to go to Lambeau that game because I was supposed to go on behalf of NBC to do some Ryder Cup coverage. And I had a personal thing came up. I couldn't make it out there, and I strongly regret it. Like, I don't know that I'm gonna have any more chances to go see the Ryder Cup in person, but USA obviously came through. They were dominant in that Ryder Cup. And then, the Packers flexed on the Lions as well. But still on my bucket list to go to Lambeau. Would love to experience it. I feel like I feel like you don't want it to be like tonight where it's like summer conditions, right? You want to be in Lambeau in the frigid cold, right?
60 degrees tonight in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin. Few people know this. Lambeau is not in Green Bay. It is in Ashwaubenon, which is a neighboring. I imagine how long it took me to say that. It took me a very long time. Yeah, few people know that. So Lambeau is actually situated in a neighborhood. So it's just like a college environment. So like you pull up and you could park in a neighbor's yard for $20. And then you just go drink and tailgate and do the whole thing. I could talk about this for a long time, but Drew, let's talk about why we're here. What is the show? The show is an opportunity for us to actually discuss and dissect market movement, why markets are moving the way they are to and through kickoff. We thought this would be a really cool idea because, as Drew mentioned, we did some Wimbledon coverage, made $1,000 on Ons Jabeur, which was an amazing experience. But we thought, because the sport trade product is so markets driven, it lends itself to this sort of discussion, which frankly doesn't really exist in this form, taking you up to kickoff through kickoff, which we will do. And then we're going to tell you our leans. If Drew has any, I know he says he rarely does any pregame stuff. I've got a pregame lean myself. And then we'll kind of see how the first few drives play out. Now, a lot of that lends to totals. Some of that could lend to some early spread activity, but I'm really excited for this idea that we've had. So I'm curious for your thoughts, Drew, as we take a look at Packers and Lions. Lions -2.5 at Sport Trade, and a smattering of twos elsewhere, right? Like, sure, we're an operator, but we understand we're price sensitive bettors. We want you to be price sensitive bettors. We want you to download as many books as possible and shop. Packers +2.5. There's been some movement. I'll run through the movement quickly, and then I want to get your thoughts just holistically on this line in general before we get into kind of how we feel about it personally. So we'll start with the money line. The money line opened at Packers +106, Lions -117. At last check about 10 minutes ago, it was Packers +122, Lions -133. On the spread, it stayed at 2.5 the entire week. We had Packers +2.5 at -125. That's now -104. And Lions -2.5 at +113. That's now 2.5 at -104. So in terms of Sport Trade, right? Like, we do probabilities, shares, but we also do American odds. I've got my leans up here on the screen, which you can already see. I'm going backwards, so I'm not going to win any CLV over the course of this broadcast, but you have had an opportunity to pick up some pretty significant CLV, specifically here on the Lions, rather, the spread. So +113 to -104 is a $4 share per $4 gain, rather, per share in that particular market. I'm curious for your thoughts, Drew.
Yeah, so the NFL is a very efficient market.
Yeah.
A standalone primetime game is probably the most efficient of those because there's not a lot of other stuff that if you're handicapping NFL, if you're dialed in, plugged in, like this is what you got going on tonight. That's why we're here. The name of the game in terms of a lot of the market movement as we go from open to I would say about 24 hours before, actually not even 24 hours, like literally almost all of the sharp stuff on Thursday usually comes in morning of. And the name of the game of all of the market movement before you get to sort of the sharp action is just information. Trying to read between the lines when injury reports come out for Thursday Night Football. If you didn't already know, injury reports on Monday and Tuesday are estimated because they're not actually out there running practices.
Right,
they're just saying, if there was a practice today, this guy would have participated, this guy wouldn't have. And so for the majority of this week, there's been some pretty impactful injuries. Like, there are some guys that absolutely mattered. And there was actually a whiff of the Detroit Lions having potentially a cluster injury on the offensive line. If you look at Mondays and Tuesdays reports, there was like 4 offensive linemen on there, including both expected starting right tackle, right guard. And, you do the math and you're like, oh boy, we could be starting this guy and this guy on the right side of the line against Rashawn Gary. Like, this could be a problem. And so I think a lot of people set up on Packers early in the week and pushed this down into the, it was kind of approaching pick'em range. As we got closer, and what was kind of fascinating this morning, there was a little bit of a snafu in terms of reporting who was going to be available to play.
Right.
And what's wild is Taylor Decker, he might not move the needle for a lot of people. You might not know what position he plays or which team he plays for in this game.
He's a really good tackle,
but he's very good.
Yeah,
he's very good. And what's actually especially important about Taylor Decker is that when he's available to play his position, then everybody else kind of moves into their more natural position, particularly Penei Sewell. When he's unavailable, Penei Sewell has to move into his spot on the left, and then everything gets chaotic after that. So his availability actually mattered quite a lot. And there were reports this morning he wasn't going to go. They were, paired with reports about David Montgomery not going, which does not move the needle. But
he is active tonight.
Both guys. Both guys are going. And the only guy missing is Emmanuel Mosley for the Lions. And I think that kind of gave people a little bit of opportunity to say, okay, well, fine. If the offensive line is going to be quasi intact here, then this is the right side here is the Lions. Lions, of course, coming off of a very, very memorable win in Lambeau last year at the end of the year. Primetime success that people remember against the Chiefs week 1. So, they've got a lot of public support. They've got a lot of reasons to kind of believe in this team. But I don't think realistically the jockeying you've seen between 2.5 and pick'em, I don't think there's much signal there. I don't think there's a lot of sharp action. I think Green Bay would have been the bet on if Decker was unavailable, and with him playing, that it's a no bet.
Well, in terms of the information available as well, right? We already knew that David Bakhtiari wasn't going to play. Didn't play last weekend. Elton Jenkins, also a Pro Bowler left guard, not going to play tonight as well. So 2 Pro Bowl offensive linemen that we knew were not playing last week, also not playing. There was, to me, very little indecision about what the Packers did Sunday against Atlanta, which was they basically were sitting Aaron Jones, sitting Christian Watson in preparation for a short week this week. So to me, that was already sort of baked into this line. As soon as it opened, we kind of already understood that. And then once we cleared Sunday, it felt like that was sort of predisposed, right? So my question for you is, this game is at Lambeau. Now, someone who has covered the Packers previously, lived there for a long time, still talk to a lot of people involved with the organization. This is not a home field advantage at Lambeau that anyone is afraid of. They will talk about that. They're very understanding of that. This is just anecdotal, but when I lived up there, multiple family members were offered beers and brats and everything while they're in the stands. And I can guarantee you, Drew, that is not something that would be extended to them if this were Philadelphia. So when you're going through and handicapping a game like this, how much weight do you give to home field advantage, and how does it move and shake depending on the home field?
Yeah, I mean, home field advantage has like a dozen components. And, some of it is literally the venue and the noise, because obviously noise can have a specific impact on offensive line communication, right? And if you are relying on your offensive line to be able to communicate as a road team, in order to defend against an especially effective pass rush, and the crowd noise is violent, then you're in trouble. And that's kind of one small example. Ref bias matters too, although the NFL is doing everything in their absolute power to really try to squash that out, and I think they're doing a good job generally. And I think if you look at sort of the long-term trends of home field advantage going from 3, a clean 3 on a median 3 to something in the 1.6, 1.8 range, that's largely because they've kind of squashed out the ref bias. But then there's other things like travel, which, for the Lions, minimal. They've made plenty of trips to Green Bay. This is a pretty light lift for them, even on a short week.
That airport does fly direct to Detroit now. So there you go.
Yeah. And, so I think realistically expecting that this is somewhat of a, on the smaller side from a home field advantage standpoint is completely fair. I would mostly just look at, if you're neutrally power rating these teams in terms of players available, in terms of, how you get to kind of a baseline projection, it's right away kind of going to come at, looking at the matchup, in my opinion, of the Green Bay defense against the Detroit offense.
I'm glad you said that. I have what I think is a very compelling statistical database that will inform my lean here. You mentioned something I think is really interesting, which is ref bias.
Sure.
You knew that the NFL has done a great job of sort of stamping that out. Do you have an example for us to share with the audience of when maybe that was not the case?
Boy, I'm just maybe buying into the collective understanding.
Okay.
But no, back in the day, think about Pat's Colts,
Sure.
in Foxborough, in playoff environment. And the refs swallow the whistle, and the Pats secondary is being especially handsy with the Colts wide receivers. I think they made rule changes, particularly to try to counter that sort of thing. But I think if that definitely, like, how you call DPI, when you call it, how you call holding and when you call it, like, those are the 2 super impactful penalties, because a holding penalty on an offense that's not dynamic, that's as good that's as good as a sack. And then the flip side, giving an offense that has no life, 40 yards of pass interference, like that's giving them free points. So
we are exchanging pleasantries for so long. The game just kicked off, actually. So I will quickly tell you what I'm thinking and why I'm thinking it. Packers plus 2.5. I've been on this since about Monday. Reason being, the home road splits for Jared Goff are unbelievable in many ways, and that does include games against Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator for Green Bay, despite the fact that everybody who lives in Green Bay wants him fired. Quickly, in 19 home games, here are his splits: 68.6% completion rate, 40 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. In 15 away games, 63.5% completion rate, 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. And Drew, I know you're a horse racing guy. I am as well. We have something called bounce. If a horse runs a race that's out of a statistical norm for that horse, we call that a bounce. He has a huge bounce game, which he threw for 355 yards and 3 scores against Carolina in a loss last year. So you take that out, consider that a bounce. He's thrown 10 touchdowns and 9 interceptions in 15 away games in his time in Detroit. Now, normally I would consider that like kind of interesting trend, but that's a full season of data we have for him on the road with the same coaching staff. Same offensive coordinator, same head coach, slight variation in surrounding talent. So for me, I think that's very notable. This is very anecdotal. Dan Campbell on a short week, 0-4, average margin of defeat, 5.5 points. Matt LaFleur in the same situation. Jared Goff just threw an interception. That was an interception right there. And the Packers have a chance to take this back. They take it back to the 15-yard line.
Oh, boy.
Okay, there you go. Jared Goff. There you go. Tack another interception on.
I mean, hard to refute your angle now.
Yeah,
couple of quick thoughts. Jared Goff is a guy that does well in neutral or favorable conditions.
Yes.
And you ask him to go outside, and granted, this is not a weather game. Like, a lot of that sample, I think, is probably reflecting the fact that he's just not ideal in the outdoors. And he's a guy that very, very, very famously was a product of Sean McVay telling him what to do and when to do it and how to do it.
At the line of scrimmage.
And that's where that's tougher when you're on the road. And to the degree that Ben Johnson, in my opinion, is very much trying to do as best he can a Sean McVay impression. I mean, he's adopted so many of the McVay, Shanahan, LaFleur type of concepts like that. That makes sense that if he's not communicating well, then you're not going to get as good a performance out of him on the road. I also will point out the couple of other key kind of Thursday Night Football angles. And really just like, maybe we should just save some of this for future Thursday Night Football shows, but I'll just rattle off like a couple things you ought to know. My position pregame was under. I got under 46 yesterday.
Ooh, good.
Some of that thinking is it's tough to come up with a good script 2 weeks ahead of time, which is really what you have to do on a short week. And so you are, and by the way, if you're going to get into a live trading experience, you almost have to work from a framework of take the dog, bet the under, because time clicking off the clock is your friend in both instances.
So not to cut you off, but
sure.
We're 2 minutes into the game, and I had an Aiden Hutchinson sack prop for plus money that just hit. So there you go.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah. Easy one.
Yeah. Our guy TV at work from Unabated just had Andy, your partner, at halftime on his show, and now you're on ours. There you go. And I'm also, I am broadcasting from my Godfather chair. It's the only corner of my house that I can reach my Ethernet cord into my my router. So that's why I sit here.
Pretty miserable. Pretty miserable set of downs for the Packers offense there.
Yeah, that was not great.
Lions defense came to play, and like I don't want to ascribe the interception to it, but like it's tough to get first 15 plays of the game. You want to come in with a script that you have well thought out, that you've practiced thoughtfully, and that you can really execute cleanly. Short week interrupts all of that because you just don't get enough practice time. You basically have to implement everything you want to do at the beginning of the game the prior week. And so the more experience you have with Thursday Night Football, the better you are at it. And that's just kind of something to kind of keep in the back of your mind as you're coming up with a handicap for any TNF game. The fact that we got 3 points on the board, considering the short field, feels fortunate.
For the under,
for the under. But your Packers position is in pretty good shape. And, the big question here is, does Detroit stick with their script? Is their script even that strong? Or do they start to, try to adapt on the fly. And my guess is they're going to stick with the script here. Although I can also tell you that I haven't been especially impressed with Ben Johnson's scripts this year.
I completely agree with you. And just to your point about the total, so didn't go over the total yet. It did open at 44.5. It got up to 46.5 Wednesday, where you said, I think you grabbed the under. That was at the most valuable point. Went back down to 44.5 today. And I think it nestled in the under 44.5 at plus 102. So good job by you getting that number.
Yeah, and I think most of my concept was the offensive line injuries tend to maybe get the offensive, decision makers, or the guys, the architects, thinking a little more conservatively. Like, hey, we're not at full strength. We don't need to put our guys at risk. Short week, it's a high leverage game, and later on we can get to the point where at what point do we buy an over, because we're shooting for the bill here, if you didn't already know. that's the nature of Thursday Night Football. This is not a set it and forget it type of experience for me, at least. No. But no, I think the general kind of keys you want to have in mind for Thursday, and really just for any live trading primetime experience, like if you're backing an over and you're expecting to trade that position, you better have high confidence that both coaches are going to come out with very aggressive and effective first 15 scripts, right? And the things that I think of are like you can look at data to get a sense of how is that going. Right. Like so far this season, you probably don't even need to really know this, but guess who's, the best game script coach in the NFL?
I would imagine it's Mike McDaniel.
It's Mike McDaniel with a bullet. Like it's not even close. Like his EPA per play in the first 15 plays is like out of this world.
Insane.
Out of this world. Sean Payton from the Broncos, also quite a good, first 15 play signal that you've gotten from him so far.
He actually only thinks about the first 15 plays. After that, they don't think about anything.
Whatever happens, happens. Whatever gets Russell Wilson out of my hair is fine. But no, I think the opportunity to you get two very good early well scripting teams like the Dolphins and the Broncos playing each other, and that's an opportunity to take an over pre-flop, and you can decide what to do then. Like now, if you had traded out of that and played an under last week, sorry about that, because it went over all the numbers. But I think I'm almost never looking at a pre-flop position on an over. If I'm going to trade. No.
Right. So my question for you was going to be just that. And how many possessions are you watching before you decide to either pull the trigger or decide to just stand pat?
Yeah, I'm counting. This is a good strategy conversation. And there's this is what
I was hoping to do with my lean on the total tonight, was see how this goes a couple of times.
Yeah. So and you can kind of lump two things here together. One is you bet the dog, and you were hoping that, because again, the dog could win the coin toss and get the ball first and score points. And if that happens, and I actually think someone on Twitter asked, like, what is winning the coin toss worth to a first quarter spread? It's worth a lot in certain situations. Right?
I see. Zach did ask that. Sorry, Zach, I missed that.
It's worth a lot in certain situations. It depends on like what are you going to do with that, right? Like some coaches will win the coin toss and defer always, and with those coaches involved, the expectation that a certain team is going to get the ball first regardless of the coin toss is built into the first quarter spread. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you have to recognize that sometimes it's priced in. Other times it is a factor. If it's both of these coaches have the same tendencies, they're both going to defer. So then it really is a 50-50 who's going to get the ball first. Then you have to think a little more carefully in terms of who has a good first 15. And if it's, if you already were inclined to bet a certain team, and you were already inclined to, and they win the toss, Realistically, it's worth close to 2.5 points to the first quarter spread by my
Okay.
numbers, which is a massive, massive amount in that
Yeah.
teeny market like that. I will also kind of add a couple of contextual wrinkles you need to think about if you're betting first quarters, which is, do you have a team that is expecting to that would like to dictate pace?
Mm.
Either way,
Right.
If it's a team that wants to dictate pace fast, then it's not worth as much. If it's a team that wants to dictate pace slow, then it's worth much more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
I mean, I would say
basically,
the Packers are one of those teams. The Packers have run some of
yeah.
the few, just in terms of sheer amount of plays, some of the fewest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, oh, yeah. Packers are, and that's Mike LaFleur thing. And Mike LaFleur, like oh wow, we got a big play
Oh,
here.
Laporta, big play.
Laporta.
Oh, I think he might have just hit his prop right there.
Yeah, he might have hit his rec prop there. That was like the most bet prop on earth, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think,
although
I think it was 40? Like 46.
Oh,
so
he
maybe
didn't
maybe not.
He got close though. He'll get there now.
Kid's a player,
He'll get there now.
Kid's an absolute player, and I know nobody cares, but I've got 100% stock or shares of him in fantasy. No one cares.
Yeah,
I know. No one cares.
He's good. He's a good player. That was a great pick by them.
No, that was an amazing explanation. I hope I believe it was Zach is still watching and paying attention.
Yeah, I guess in summary, it can be worth as little as 0, and it can be worth that's touchdown.
Who there you go, a tutty.
Raymond
Lions.
St. Brown.
St. Brown. St. Brown. So they go right down the field. So much for my stats.
So much for my under. That'll cook it real quick.
Let's take a look here, though. We have yet to enter the market at least on this phone. Once the volatility settles, we can take a look at what some of these prices look like. I am curious. So I had a thought about the pregame pricing of this, or at least I should say the spread of this. And to me, one of the biggest factors between these two teams, Drew, were the Atlanta Falcons.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
These two teams played Atlanta the last 2 weeks. And to me, it was more of an indication that the Atlanta Falcons coaching staff didn't stick to their guns against Detroit, and they did against Green Bay. And to me, I learned less about the two teams playing tonight than I did about Atlanta. So when I say that, I'm saying Atlanta ran the ball 45 times against the Packers for 211 yards. 1-1 point game at home. So Detroit has the advantage of watching that tape and saying, okay, we know exactly what Arthur Smith wants to do, right? That's the book on Arthur Smith. But also, we get a lot more tape on Desmond Ridder. And we know Desmond Ridder is inaccurate when we move his feet, when we get him around, and we are generally pressuring him. The Atlanta coaching staff, despite that game being a one-score game the entire first half and 13-3 well into the fourth quarter, they threw 38 passes. They ran the ball 20 times. To me, that says Atlanta didn't stick to their guns more so than, Lions beat Falcons, Falcons beat Packers, ipso facto, Lions over Packers. So that to me played what I think is somewhat of a role in the spread that we saw heading into kickoff. Now you tell me. I'm just a guy hosting a show, right? You're a handicapper. You tell me if that makes any sort of sense.
No, it definitely does. I think
that's the show, everybody. Thanks so much for watching.
But the part that made the most sense to me was the idea that the key takeaways were about Atlanta. It's also kind of worth noting that Atlanta was home for the first 2 weeks of the season, and at Detroit, that was their first road game.
Yeah.
I agree that they got cute. They tried to be tendency breakers for no real good reason.
I mean, the Lions were forcing Ridder to throw 10-yard hitches, and he couldn't do it.
No,
couldn't do it.
No, and the Lions they generated pressure, which is, kind of it was a tough environment to decide we are going to test our offensive line's pass pro for the first time.
Yeah, great point.
Because the offensive line for the Falcons is good.
Yeah.
And the numbers that, the box score review, the first thing that absolutely just jumps out of the page at you is Ritter got sacked 7 times. Like
Wow.
he was under
Yeah.
pressure something like 10 or 11 times.
And I don't think the Lions had a sack coming into that game.
No, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I don't 100% remember what the numbers were.
Yeah.
But it was pretty amazing that yeah, Hutchinson had 5 pressures, 2 sacks himself. Harris had 3 pressures. McNeil had 2. McNeil, by the way, was kind of a chronic underperformer to his career at that point. And all of a sudden, he's getting pressure. So, yeah, there was a lot of issues with the pass pro for the Falcons. And for some reason, they decided to kind of learn the hard way that they weren't ready for a road test like that. But
so real quick, just looking at the overs, because I know we'd mentioned it a little bit ago. So the overs here priced on your screen, it was at 46.5 at one point during the week. That's now at minus 212.
Yeah.
49.5, minus 138, over 52.5, plus 106. Now we're at 10 points already. The other side of that coin is, do you think this could slow down? Because if you think that this is a natural under position, you could try to maybe grab some value on perhaps that 46.5, now plus 144 or 49.5. Let's see when the market comes back in. But a possible position to grab some value on the under, and what do you think sort of predicates that?
I would agree that it is a valuable position, a valuable time to do that. And it's literally just the idea that those 2 pass plays that you saw, the Laporta pass and the Amon-Ra St. Brown pass. Wow.
Another sack for the Lions.
Maybe the Lions defense is just good.
Maybe it is.
That's wild, because this is, I mean, the Packers so far look like they're missing some key pieces on the O line, which is and they're at home,
from
so
the right
communication.
Side. That pressure came from the right, not even the left.
Right. Yeah. And there's holding, and they're not. It doesn't even matter. They're holding them anyway. So yeah, real quick, the total to the under makes sense to me, because clearly Green Bay's script is not, it's not going great. And the Lions have used a couple of the plays that they were really hoping to get going here. I think expecting that once the Lions get into neutral game script, what happens? Here's what happens if the Lions have a lead in this game. They are going to run effectively, because they have an offensive line that can run block very well. They have a dynamic 1-2 punch with Montgomery and Gibbs. And they have the opportunity to kind of impose their will a bit against a Packers team that likes to run relatively, they prefer to be in lighter sets. Let's assume that before the line,
and we're gonna get a hold here too on 3rd and 16. This Lions defense is flying around.
I would go ahead and decline that and just accept the punt. But let's assume that the Lions get more points here before the Packers really get going offensively. That sets up well for Lions to just kill this clock and get out of town with an ugly win. So I'm inclined to continue to add under here.
So under 46.5 at plus 144. We just hopped in on that's what's on your screen right now.
Get it. Let's get some.
Yeah. So 4th and 16, and already a Packers offensive lineman is limping off the field. So 2 series for the Packers. I think the Lions have 2 or 3 sacks already. Jordan Love yet to complete a pass. So things looking great for my bets here.
76 is John Runyon. He is the right guard, and he is somewhat valuable.
Yeah. We have a false start on the Packers. Couldn't have asked for a worse start here for Green Bay.
I mean, last week they were down 17-0 at halftime, so I guess the fact they got 3 points in the first half was a win. I don't know.
Yeah. But famous Jameis was the one who couldn't close the deal there.
Yes, surely. I would say that just in general, Lions with the lead to me says under. That said, Jordan Love, for what it's worth, if you were to try to tease out what he is from the data, he's a risk taker. He's not a guy that is taking the check down or throwing it out of bounds. He's trying to thread it into small windows and pushing the ball downfield, irrespective of game script.
Yeah, his
or
ADOT, I think, is tops in the
yeah.
league or top 3, I wanna say, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
gonna keep pushing. Now, whether he completes it, considering the fact that his guys aren't getting a ton of separation, he doesn't have a ton of a ton of reps with Christian Watson yet. A lot of really young players in that skill position group on a short week, maybe a little out of sorts. So, I think everything I've seen to this point is screaming at me to add under. And I think if you've already got some, I would just sit on it because we need the Green Bay defense to come up with a stop here.
Yeah.
And we need to see the Lions go, once the Lions have only, I think they're still probably in their script. So we haven't gotten to the point where they're improvising just yet. I'm counting plays here. But yeah, I would expect that improvisation for the Lions looks a lot like running the ball to the tune of 35 times in this game.
That would be great for the under. Now, not so great. Packers plus 2.5. Packers outright.
Oh
What do
boy.
you think? Are we saving a little cash here before this drive, and then just kind of seeing where things go, or do you think we're holding pat for now? Now, because
So
a Lions score here, it makes it 14-3 with a lot of time left, but Packers have not looked very good.
so smart, I guess a wise guy. A wise guy once told me, if you're going to live bet the NFL, you don't bet on the team after they get a stop. You don't bet on and over after there's been a score. Right? And so you don't bet on a team after they've gotten a score, right? Like there's a pretty clear likelihood that what has just happened has influenced the market beyond fair because of some reason, right? Like there's a little bit of potential for, the market has gone too far. It needs to be corrected back, right?
Yeah.
So in general, if you have in mind, I would like to take this position, your ideal entry is going to be after, let's say I like Green Bay's chances to ultimately come back here. Great time to do it would be right now because they just punted and the Lions have pretty
short
good
field.
position. Yeah. You can immediately make up some of your equity if they get a 3 and out here.
So 10 total plays for the Lions. So presumably they're still in their script, and they're just firing away here.
Yeah, they're in
Very
aggressive mode, and I guess the some of the defensive players who are not playing, Jair Alexander, Devondre Campbell, like those guys matter.
Yep.
And their absence, I think, has inspired the Lions to come in slinging, and maybe just the Lions realize that this is their opportunity to really get into the driver's seat when it comes to the NFC North, and that's maybe driving some of their mindset. I mean, they're an aggressive team in general, and they're running well. Wow.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're getting 7-8 yards a clip.
Yeah, and that was
pretty passive defensive work there from the linebacking unit.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen that before, you haven't watched Joe Woods' defense. Or Joe Barry, excuse me, Joe Barry.
Yeah,
I get Woods and Joe Barry mixed up for some reason.
I mean, the Packers are going on year 17 of hating their defensive coordinator, so nothing new there. I was there right after they won the Super Bowl, and they wanted to fire Dom Capers. They just won the Super Bowl, but nothing changes. Nothing changes there. Let's see, 3rd and 3. Oh man, people are just running wild right now. Big first down. Well, this is what I get for shorting Jared Goff, I guess.
He is it really his work to this point? It feels. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like,
no, it's a good question. I mean, these guys are getting schemed wide open.
So my read on that play, for instance, is he was locked in.
Yeah,
he was going.
That's good play design. Laporta comes across in his zone.
Yeah.
He pulls the linebacker up, and then they slide a guy behind him.
Yep, he was locked in. He was making that pass. It was just a matter of waiting for the guy to get open, and not a clear sign that is what do you call it? Not predictable, but that is something that will continue once he gets out of the opening salvo here. We're still very in the tail end of the first 15 plays, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I think we're right there at this point. But again, I mean, already in the high red zone here.
Yeah.
Montgomery. Oh,
nice
man,
tackle.
Packers finally get a stop. I mean,
nice
still falls forward for 2. Yeah. I mean, I'm already down $38.89. Now I had a $100 bet here, the Packers straight up, and that was at plus 120. That's now down to plus 258. And the spread not faring any better. Got that at minus 108. That's now plus 195. So perhaps the public was right.
Well,
and the contrarian take here, maybe not so much.
Got a lot of game left in.
A lot of time left.
A lot of game left. Yeah. Let's see Jared Goff do it when when it's not part of the script.
Here comes he was just eyeing up Laporta.
No.
Oh my gosh, Jared Goff, a second rushing touchdown in as many weeks? No, he gets snuffed. I've never seen a man move his legs faster but move slower than Jared Goff.
Yeah, he had a cartoon-esque feet moving quick under him type of deal there.
He did. Yeah, I mean, they just catch the Packers and man there, and there's nobody home. That's all that really happens there. But they get down to 3-yard line. Is it time for Jahmyr Gibbs to get his first touchdown as a pro?
No, it's time to stone these guys.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Under city, baby. Let's go.
I think I'm pulling for a fourth down goal line stop.
Packers, hey, you gotta get a stop before you get there. So that's one.
Let's Quay Walker. Quay Walker. He looks fired up. He's got 2 more. He's got 2 more of those in him.
Yeah, let's hope. I think the Lions missing only 1 offensive lineman, I believe. Big V, I think, out
of the starters.
Guard, I remember. Yeah,
out of the starters. Yeah. Their backup tackle better. Also gone. Yeah,
right. I think they were playing a 3rd string right tackle last week. Memory serves.
That's right.
Yeah,
it was the Colby Swordsall show.
I could have fooled me.
Yeah,
I'll take your word for it. Wow! Just an absolute walk-in from Montgomery. Oh my gosh!
Well blocked.
Absolute walk-in.
Well blocked play.
Yeah.
All right.
It was.
Well.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the under here. We're up to 13-3, 16 points in all. A lot of football left, though. I mean, hey, if anyone's still in their first 15 script, it's definitely the Packers. They could probably start over. They haven't even gotten a playoff.
The only problem is their plays haven't been very good.
So they haven't had time to even develop. So why not just run it all back?
We've seen 6 plays by the Packers here.
Yeah, for a total of what, -5 yards or something like that, probably. Probably less than that, actually.
More than that, right?
No, they've been stacked multiple times.
Yeah, no, it's -11 total, right?
Yeah, that's not an ideal start.
-6. Wow. I don't know, man. The Lions defense showed up. The Lions in general showed up tonight.
Yeah, they did. Eating kneecaps down there.
They are. Live totals kind of hovering around 53.5-ish. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Is that right? Look. 52.5. Oh,
we've got 52.5 here right now. But I think these are going to be updated here shortly.
Yeah, that's got to tick up, I'm guessing.
Yep. Looks like we're in the process of doing that right now, actually. Yeah, they're getting kind of moved around.
46.5 is toast.
Yeah, minus 342. Under 46.5. Plus 234. So we're not looking to double down, I guess.
No, not on 46. Although, I mean the whiff of blood is in the air.
Yeah, true.
37-3.
I mean, I hope so. That gets us home. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain about it.
I mean, yeah, blowout on Thursday Night Football can go a lot of ways. I mean,
so when you're capping Thursday, right, and it's a short weekend, as you mentioned, they're developing plans even before the previous game.
Yeah,
you talked a little bit about process, as much as you want to get into with your own process. How do you account for just the variance, the randomness, the stickiness of some of these games?
And on Thursday Night Football in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah.
I mean, the only the only tried and true angle that pre-flop angle that I know of for Thursday Night Football is fading first-time head coaches, just because they haven't been through the process of you need to have all of your concepts figured out a week beforehand, right? My understanding or assumption is, you do a little bit of preliminary scouting for a given week, kind of starting to look, starting to pull some tape, starting to think through what you're going to do the next week for a normal preparation cycle. But most of the work is done the week of. That can't happen when you're playing Thursday. There's just not enough time. Any wrinkles you want implemented into your game script, game plan, anything that you want, any specific communication you need to do to players has to start the week before. Everybody's got to know Thursday is next week. You're going to be featured in blank, blank, and blank. We're counting on you to do blank, blank, and blank. I think it's possible that the Packers were a little bit handicapped in this regard. And I know off the top you were kind of saying it seemed to you like they had intended to keep Watson and Jones in their pocket for this game, which, if they knew they were going to be available, they could have kind of specifically tailored a game plan utilizing those players.
Not that we've seen that so far.
We haven't seen it so far, which suggests to me maybe they weren't 100% sure those guys were going to go.
Yeah. How about just like a run here? How about you just don't expose your quarterback so much? We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, they need something positive out of this drive, or we're talking, we're talking putting a defense that's already spent 10 minutes on the field back out there against a team that's going to want to run.
Yeah. We're just under 2 minutes and 30 seconds now in the first quarter. We did say we'd go through the first quarter. Drew, of course, has his halftime show with Andy coming up. But this is something we're going to do, for most Thursdays heading forward. I'm really excited for it. 14-3 Lions right now, 2:18 remaining in the first quarter. Once we get to the end of the first quarter, we'll say goodbye for now. But right now, I'm actually surprised we're seeing as much AJ Dillon as we are. Maybe that's a commentary on exactly where Aaron Jones is, because AJ Dillon has been one of the worst running backs in the NFL so far this year in terms of yards per carry, carry over expectation. He's been dog shit. Let's just put it that way. Like it's been that bad. Like we talked about Jared Goff being a cartoon caricature of somebody running, but that is literally AJ Dillon.
No question. It's also kind of a little bit of a signal, I think, in terms of maybe they had. Boy. Oh wow! Not Dubs had so much separation and love couldn't get it in his area code. Ouch. That's a tough 3 and out. Yikes. Okay, so the implementing Dillon, they wanted to keep Aaron Jones on a snap count. They wanted to keep Christian Watson on a snap count. They probably this could be just a sign of, third drive, we're sending those guys out.
Yeah.
But that's not a good sign for how they climb back into this game.
No. No. I mean, because then you get into a conversation of how far gone is two gone, right? There's still a lot of season left. There's no sense in burning 2 guys with hamstring injuries.
No. And there's also no point in getting other guys, exposing other guys. So at some point does this turn into like the Giants game of last week where they're waving the white flag, let's go home.
Yeah.
I mean, they are home, so they're probably not going to do that.
It's a short drive. It's not a very large community.
It's a short drive
up there.
And I don't know. I mean, I think the total is starting to creep down finally. I think we might have hit our crescendo around 54, although the 54 was super juicy to the under. 52 and a half now. If we wanted to get under 52 and a half, it's minus
111. Yeah. What are you thinking?
I mean, again, like you don't necessarily fire an under right after a punt. That's kind of you're potentially buying the top. But
Should we wait for way to play?
well, I know. I think what I'm gonna try to read out of this drive is first down. Are we running or passing? First down, we're passing. Oh boy,
what a catch!
Yeah, really, really well done play. So the Lions are actually not inclined, in my opinion, to tack into a more conservative
they want to bury it. They want to bury
game plan. They want to bury them. Yeah, they're out here to have some fun tonight, score some points. I think a successful drive here with points probably we would see. I guess it depends how many plays.
Mm-hmm.
If this is an explosive drive versus if this is a drive where they milk. Wow! Now we're doing trick plays. Oh boy!
Wow! Oh boy!
Yeah,
he's got an angle too. Oh my god! Just like that, Detroit is at the 15-yard line.
They
this is Mortal Kombat. I mean, this is no hold bars right now. They are just putting it on them.
Yeah, this is making me think last week's 20 points we saw from the Detroit was because they were keeping some of their some of the good plays in the playbook for this game.
I mean, look how far they 30 yards downfield blocking.
Yeah, it's this is a team that's clicking right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the end of the first quarter, Drew. As it stands right now, all of these look terrible.
Yeah, I think we're going to need a little bit of luck to get the under home, and I really don't know what Green Bay has to do to turn this around. Although, as we said last week, they had a 17-point deficit that they overcame. So, if they can do 17, why not 18? Right?
Why not? It might be more by the time we hang up. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you're assuming a 21-3 lead there. All right, Drew, this is awesome. We'll be back I believe next Thursday, and for many Thursdays after that. Anything you want to say to the people who have stuck around? We've got several people who've been watching throughout.
Oh, cool. Well, appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to ask a couple of be sure to ask a couple of questions about strategy, and we'll happily kind of chew on them for you. The general angle for next week's going to be real tough. You see what the game is?
I have not looked. Hold on.
It is the Bears heading to Washington to take on the Commanders.
Yes, I cannot wait for that game. Overs all day. Just nothing but overs.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun.
That would be fun. I mean, what's the I meant for not points, turnovers.
Yes, well, points too, maybe. I think the from memory there was a similar primetime Chicago Washington game last year that was one of the worst games of the season. This feels pretty different though, because at least have some skill position players who can pop in this one. So the look ahead for that is, we want to guess without looking.
Man, I'm gonna say Commanders 2.
5.5.
What?
Yep, it's in Washington.
Okay. I mean, the Bears are a catastrophe. So, and Washington is somewhat less so.
Yeah. You want to guess total?
I'm going to say 41.5.
43.5.
43.5.
Okay. So Dan, you're lining up Bears under based on your mental model here,
which tells the viewers and Dinger all we need to know. This is why you're here, Drew. Drew, thanks so much, man. Great to talk to you. We'll do it again next Thursday and some other Thursdays as well. Have a great halftime show.
Yeah, of course. Under 55.5 for me, minus 104.
There you go.
Let's go. Show some pride, Packers. Stop them on the goal line. Let's force a field goal here, and then let's eat some clock lines. We don't need to show them all the good plays.
No, not all of them. Save some for next week and other weeks when I'm not betting against you.
Incredible.
All right, Drew. Thanks, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
Best of luck.
See ya.